So I am very excited for today. I think this is, I'm sitting with my best friend in the world, my business partner, Jordy Ricart. Today, there might be some tears. There might be some emotional moments. I'm hoping to get Jordy to cry at some point, but
You're already getting me emotional.
but I think the best way to start this, I mean, if you guys don't recognize by now, today is we're gonna jump into the story of Curated. We started day one in the gutter together, and I think the coolest part of our story. I mean, when you think of entrepreneurs and testimony, I think, listen, you are gonna experience some struggle and some pain. It is just part of the journey. And I think the coolest part of our story, and I think the way to jump into the Curated story, is just how broke we were. 10 years ago, it'll be 10 years this year. So Jordy, I have to ask you, before we jump into the pay it forward story in the book, just how broke were you at this original moment 10 years ago?
Wow, that's a nice way to start a podcast. So 10 years ago, I had, I think, like $150 in my bank account. I'll send a photo to Sergio so he can show it. And yeah, I was planning to go back to Spain. I'm from Barcelona, from Spain. I didn't have a dollar. I had a lot of bills to pay. My immigration attorneys, my rent, and I didn't have a way to do it, to make it happen. So that's all I had.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was actually I was probably worse off than you. I was upside down.
You had a Rolex. So
I had zero cash, but what I did have was I had a Submariner, and I've told this story a few times, but I had a Submariner. If you guys know it, it's the anniversary, the green on green Rolex, the stainless Rolex. So I had that. It was a great asset.
Yeah.
And I was able to pawn that, which we'll talk about later in the story, pawn that to at least just pay my rent and some living expenses at the time. So that is where we started. So I think we have to go back into time. We are going to tell the story of Curated. We have to go back in time and really discuss how we met. If you don't know, there's a ton of videos on it on VinWiki and things like that. I at the time had really terrible business partners and was operating a company called Lula V. I was one of the founders of that company. It was an exotic car rental business, and publicly outward, the business was doing very well. Yep. From a marketing point of view, and you know, really just some miraculous things were happening with that business, celebrities, music videos, different things like that. And then we had this opportunity to basically acquire a company that Jordy was working for, that he actually came here to fix, to help fix. And we acquired that, and we acquired Jordy as part of the deal. And he's going to say that I didn't like him at first. But I think really the coolest part about our story and where we are today, if you asked me 10 years ago, you know, is this going to be your business partner or best friend, all these different things, I'd be like, there's no way. We're complete opposites. This is a nicer attire for me today. And the fact that he's not wearing a blue sport jacket today is a little shocking. But he's grown a lot. What was that like? I would say, what was that like in those early days of Lula V when you first joined us?
The thing is that, so it's crazy to think that you didn't acquire the company. It was one of your business partners. And I met you the day that you were signing the acquisition. It was one of your investors. I met them.
Yes.
And then they ended up we ended up putting together a deal, and we met that day yes. with the attorneys signing. Yes. So, man, at the beginning it was tough. You know, like it was difficult to work with you, and we can talk about this now openly, not 10 years later. But we both had egos. You know, like I had my ego, and I had a lot of insecurities. I was from Spain, Barcelona. I had been in Miami for less than a year. My English was broken. was difficult for me to work in English for more than like 30 minutes to, to have a conversation. So working with you guys, it was just like difficult for me. So sometimes it was like, like you had to prove things. And on the other side, you were like this, like you were cocky. Unless you were a celebrity or somebody important, you were not giving attention to me or anyone.
Let's talk about the old John Temerian for a second. So yeah, and I think, but you know what I think, and I think you had an ego.
Yeah.
You were trying to prove yourself, and I had an ego because I was trying to prove myself.
Exactly.
I mean, neither of us come from any wealth or money. We were exposed to a lot of wealth and money. I mean, you had some very well-off friends.
Yeah.
Obviously, my dad was working on Lamborghinis, Rolls Royces, all these cars. I was always seeing a lot of wealth. So you have this mentality, especially when you come from the gutter, you have this mentality. And yes, we always get these comments. People are like, oh, your dad's rich, he's well off. No, my dad he still has his Miura SV. But really, he was a blue-collar, hardworking mechanic. God bless him. 7 days a week he worked. We never went on any vacations. The guy worked his butt off, selling cars, fixing cars, doing whatever he could. So, coming out of that situation, you do feel like you have something to prove to the world.
Yes, 100%. And same for me. My dad was a banker. He was making money, but not like crazy money. So at the end of the day, you wanted to, when you leave your country to another place, you have all your friends, all these people, your family, your dad, yourself. I studied 2 degrees, law and business. So I was like, I need to make it happen. And for me at the time, that I want to talk about this at the end as well. But for me at the time, to make it happen, to make it in life, it was to make money. That's it.
For me, it was a purple Diablo SC30. That was the only goal I had, was to buy an SC30. But in some ways, that's actually how Curated started from those early times. So if we jump into the Curated story a little bit, I mean, we are exact opposites visually. I mean, in the sense that I used to wear ripped jeans. My wife doesn't let me wear them anymore. I used to wear a T-shirt. Always some pair of funky sneakers.
Ripped T-shirt as well.
Ripped T-shirts as well. Thank you for reminding me. In those early days, I mean, you really came in. I mean, for me, there's a pivotal moment in that Lou Lovey story. And you came to me and just said, man, let me help you. You're just doing too many things. And I'll never forget, I don't know if we were at a barbecue place or we went somewhere, and you had a list of everything I was doing. And you came in and were like, you crossed off maybe 70% of the things on the list. And you're like, just focus on these things, the things you're good at. And it's funny because at the time I was like, oh no, what is this guy trying to do? He's trying to take things away from me. But that was the first moment where I think I trusted you. And I said, okay, I'm going to trust this guy. I'm going to give him, some leeway. And then you just, overnight, I think within 4 months, we had saved like $800,000 from our budget.
Within a year.
Within a year. We really turned that company around in a very short time. And I guess that's really where your background from law and business really is. That's your core.
Yeah, no, that's my core. And what I saw, working with you, is that you were a magic marketing, person. It was incredible what you were doing with all those celebrities. We had 100,000 followers, in a year and a half in Lola or 2 years. At that time, nobody had 100,000 followers.
No.
It was incredible, the VAPs. But then I saw you you were doing accounting and you were doing all these things, and everybody was coming to you asking for money. And you are somebody that doesn't know how to say no. You improved a little bit, but you don't like conflict. And I saw checks going out. I didn't know the accounting, the financials of the company, but I could tell that we were not making money. That's why I approached you and I told you, hey, this is what I know how to do. Just let me do it. And you actually wrote the list. I got the big paper, the big Post-it, and I asked you, hey, what are you doing today? And you made a massive, massive list. And then what do you really love doing? And it was 3 or 4 things. That it was like the marketing, the VAPs, like buying and selling the cars. It was like 3 or 4 things. And I told you, like, okay, what you don't like doing, that's what I love doing. And that's when we started working together.
Yes. And I think also the next part of the story is probably the coolest part of the story, because I think we truly built our trust and respect for each other. Things started to go really well, and then things started to go really, really bad.
Yeah.
And so at the time, 80% of our business was, I think, Brazilian.
70-80% from Brazil.
It was from Brazil. You had wealthy Brazilians coming to Miami, renting Ferraris, Lamborghinis, enjoying the market. The dollar versus the reais just completely shifted. The Brazilian market was completely affected, and we went from starting to make money and starting to make a profit to basically not being able to pay our rent, not being able.
We lost in 3 months like 70% of the business.
Yeah,
3 months.
So I think at the time we stopped taking salaries. We started selling cars. My business partner at the time did not want to put in more money. He wanted to actually pull money out. And then you came to me, and this is one of those things, these moments that I'll never forget. You came to me and basically said to me that my business partner was basically trying to cut me out of a few things, and a car deal, this and that. And you were like, I just can't do it. I don't feel right about it. And that was when, for me, I was like, okay, I didn't know this guy. He's from Barcelona. We are not the same person at all. But man, what a good soul. What a great person. And he's like, I just want to look out for you. And really from there, we were in the trenches together. Like we were trying to figure out how to pay rent. We were trying to how to figure out pay bills. And I think that's when you first saw me on the side buying and selling cars. Exactly.
Yeah, I remember like we were broke. We were not making a salary, and I was an employee. I was not even a business partner in the company. So, but I saw you buying a 355, I think it was, and you were not making a salary. So basically, you put down a 10 or 20% deposit, right, on a lease.
So here's what I did. So with what money I had left, I was able to convince. It was actually a bank that I knew the president of the bank. I was able to convince them to give me a loan. It was $48,000 loan. It was actually my mom that helped me with part of the down payment, which was like $2,500 or $3,000. And I used another $5,000 that I had. And I basically started to restore the car, and I redid the car. The car was a mess. It was a disaster. And I ended up selling it and making a really good profit.
Yeah, I thought you were crazy. I told you, are you fucking insane? And I'm going to make money. I'm going to make money. Trust me, bro. And then you make 20K or something like that. And I could not believe it.
And at the time, 20K seemed like hitting the lottery. I mean, it was a lot of money. It was a fortune. I mean, it's a lot of money. But at the time, it was really a lot of money.
Yeah, and then it's when like you told me, I remember that you sent me, you told me like, hey, I have this paper from a university that they have a report from investing in vintage cars or from a track record on vintage cars, because I didn't know that you could make money on vintage cars. I was managing the financials in Lullaby, the car rental agency, and our cars were depreciating 20 to 30% a year. That's where we were losing the money, actually.
Yes.
So when you told me that cars could appreciate it, I didn't believe it. But then you sent me that paper, I read it, and I was like, oh my God, and there's an opportunity here.
This is where one of those things, like looking back on your life, like for me, I really resented my dad for being so tough on me with details, and just we were working all the time. I was working in a shop all the time. And what's so interesting is I didn't realize how much I had learned during that time. And I realized that at this moment, I could use all this knowledge. I could do something that I loved. And you came to me, you said, well, hey, if I go get more money, can you keep doing this? And I'm like, yeah, of course I can. Like there's Countach's to buy and Diablos to buy. You took a massive risk.
Massive.
I mean, you didn't know what a Countach was, barely.
Nothing.
Did you know what a Diablo SV was? Did you know what a Mura SV was? Okay. So here's a guy.
Didn't know shit about
he didn't
cars.
know anything about cars. It was like, hey, could you do this again, what you did with the 355?
So you said, I have a Lamborghini Countach that I believe I can buy for $2 something, and I think I can sell it close to $300,000.
Yes.
I'm like, are you sure?
And you went to friends and family.
Yes, I called my best friend. That he's the person that brought me to Miami. Came here to help him with his business, and then I sold his business to you guys, to Lullaby. And I called him. I was like, "Hey, Gerard, there's an opportunity to buy a Lamborghini Countach." He didn't know what the Lamborghini Countach was either. But I'm like, we can buy this car for $200,000. We can sell it almost for $300,000. Like, would you lend me the money? And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, no, but I believe in John. So, hey, Gerard sent us the money.
And that is, listen, that's a testament. It actually goes back to, and we'll talk about the Pay It Forward story and Jordy's book and Alan and our other business partners. Like there was a leap of faith.
Yes.
That had to be, that was required. And we went out and bought the car. It was a black Countach. 12 years ago, something like that, 11 years ago.
2014.
And we ended up selling it for like $350,000 or $360,000.
I don't remember. What I remember is that Gerard, with his money, he made, because it was a 70-30 split, 70 for him, 30 for us. With his 70%, he made $90,000. That he couldn't believe it. When I called him, like, Gerard, where do I send you the money? He's like, keep doing it. So that's how we started. In 2015, I think it was, 14.
Yes. Yeah.
We did like 6 or 7 deals with Gerard's money.
And basically those early days, we had investors, we did different types of splits, we had a bunch of splits, and then at that point, and this is where it gets into the Pay It Forward story, and really, I would say, maybe I'm wrong, besides having children, besides getting married, I love my wife, one of the most pivotal moments in our life is meeting Alan Lazowski.
100%.
And I would say, so we're in this moment, we're buying and selling cars. This is the only thing that's keeping food on the table. Lullaby is just losing money.
We're not taking salaries.
We're not taking salaries. The market's horrible. I think at this point we're dealing in cars that were $200,000 to $500,000. And
50 to 200, yes. I would say.
And yeah, you're right, actually, yeah. and this guy flies in. We had produced this incredible Art Basel event. It was Mr. Brainwash, and we have Mr. Brainwash come in, and he actually painted. He threw paint on a Maserati convertible that we had. We had Paint and Frin involved. We had celebrities. There were some famous DJs there. And Alan comes into this event, and we didn't know who he was. What's cool in that bigger story is you also always treat people with respect, and you always have to, your relationships are everything. Yeah. Because I met Alan through someone I worked with many, many years before in Palm Beach. And Alan walks in and he's like, oh my God, this is crazy. What is this? This is insane. And the next morning he actually came by again. He came in, he's like, give me a hug. What's going on? And we had no clue who he was. No. And I think he just was captivated by these two young guys, complete opposites that were working together. And he just started mentoring us.
Yes. It was every 2-3 days. He was calling us at 10, 11 p.m., 2-3 hours on the phone. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, he doesn't have a wife, a family, or what's going on?
and here's this guy. I mean, obviously we Googled him right after we met him, who's today the largest privately held parking company in the world. They have 15,000 employees, $2 billion in revenue. $2 billion in revenue. So a titan, a mogul in the parking industry. And he's taken a liking to us, which is insane. And he is literally just teaching us about business and trying to help us. And at the time, we were actually trying to sell Lullaby. We had people interested in buying what was left of the brand in the company. And I think about 7 months went by, 8 months went by.
It was from December to September. In September is when you came to me.
Okay.
That was like the day that I was about to call my dad to fly back to Spain. I'm like, Dad, buy me a flight ticket. And I remember it was September 2nd, at 6 p.m. And I was sitting in the office. Everybody left at the old Lullaby with all the artwork. And I'm looking and I'm like, shit, I have to go back. I cannot afford rent next month. And I had not paid my immigration attorney for like a month and a half. And the phone rings and it was Alan. And he was in Miami. He was the president of the American Parking Association. And he's like, hey, I'm in Miami. Do you guys want to go have dinner? So we went to Mandolin. And that day in the morning, you came to me and I'm like, John, I'm going back. I was like, you're like, no, we're going to be rich. I'm like, what do you mean that we're going to be rich? And you showed me a bill of sale signed for Lamborghini Miura S, right?
It was a Miura S.
And I didn't even know what that was. And I didn't know that a car could be worth $800,000.
So I had discovered that week on eBay, a pure fluke. There was no pictures of the car. I had discovered a Lamborghini Miura S, but by chance, there was no pictures. There was a small VIN number, and it was actually described as the wrong car. It was a Miura SS. And I saved the eBay listing just in case. I went back to it the next day. It was gone, but I actually contacted the seller. I ended up getting on a cell phone with the seller who was representing the owner of the car. And he basically told me the car was in a barn. Needed everything, but sent me a few cell phone photos and I had a heart attack. I'm like, oh my God, this is a real Miura S. And if you don't know, Miura S's have a 4-digit VIN. So that's how when it was on the eBay ad, I noticed it was a 4-digit VIN. And I immediately said, okay, we want the car, negotiated the deal. I said, okay, we're going to get you a $50,000 deposit. Give us a week or two to put together the money, and we want the car. We're buying it. And I knew just how valuable this car was in the right hands, presented the right way.
Yeah.
And
so we had a week for a $50,000 and 2 weeks to pay $750.
Now, just so you guys know, we didn't even have the $50,000 deposit at this point. But I am a big believer that miracles do happen, and you've got to think big. And I'm an eternal optimist. It's part of what's guided me, and you were about to kill me.
No, you told me you're going to raise the money and then I'm going to sell it for 1.1. I'm like, I cannot raise $800,000 for a vehicle. I don't know how to do it.
So we go to Mandolin, we meet with Alan, he's there. He asks us, hey guys, miss you guys, how you guys doing? We're like, we're okay. We're how's the rent-a-car business? And we're like, horrible. We have no money, we're broke. It's losing money. We're just paying salaries, basically. The deals that we had for people to purchase the business fell apart. We are in dire straits. He's like, how's that other business you're doing with the car sales? And we're like, amazing. But, and then you tell him.
No, John came this morning with a bill of sale signed, okay, to buy a $800,000 car. We have to put a $50,000 deposit today or in a couple of days, I think it was, and it's not going to happen. You were like, no, yeah, it's going to happen. We're going to be rich. We're going to make a lot of money. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. We only have 2 days left, and I cannot raise this money. So Alan looked at us. He was like dying. He thought that we were crazy, but he goes down. He grabs his backpack, right? He pulls out a checkbook and he looks at me. He's like, you're the money guy, right? I'm like, yes. So he starts writing something and gives me a check. And he says, tomorrow you're going to go to the bank, you're going to put the $50,000 deposit, then you're going to raise the money, and John is going to sell it for $1.1 million. And I started crying. I think that you started crying.
I started crying.
And I'm like, well, Alan, I'm sorry, I cannot take this money. $50,000 at that time, when I had $150 in my bank account, it was insane. And I'm like, I cannot do this to this poor guy. He's going to lose his money. It was a non-refundable deposit. So I gave it back to him, and he's like, I'm sorry, I cannot take it. And he's like, did you read the check? I'm like, yes. And he's like, read it better. And then in the memo, it had a note that it said, paid forward. So he looked at us, at both of us, and he's like, guys, I'm not asking you to pay me back. I'm asking you to pay it forward. When you have the opportunity to help someone, you just do it. And that's what we did. We ended up taking the check. I deposited the money. I raised the money. And then you ended up selling it for $1,240,000. And that's something beautiful, and something that Alan did with us. And he always says the same thing. It's like, you need people to believe in yourself more than you believe in yourself, and that's what he did that day. He looked at us. It's like, I believe in you guys. And if he had not, it was not even about the check. It was about him telling us, I believe in you. If Alan had not done that, I don't think I would have raised the money.
I agree. And it's funny because I think that also where Alan was in his life, for him to give us the time, the mentorship, that was pivotal. It was life-changing. And the excitement of that win And I always talk about that. Wins are so important. It's one thing that you talk in your book, is celebrating your wins. We don't do it enough. We haven't done it enough. But celebrating those wins and feeling those wins is super, super important. And that was a big turning point for us.
And not only that, but so that for me marks the beginning of Curated, no? Like that was September.
Yep.
And then in December, for our Basel, a year after meeting Alan, like exactly a year, we were launching Curated Investments, you, me, and Alan together. And the difference now is that with Lullaby, what were we doing? Like, I was just pushing employees. I was pushing the vendors. I was pushing everybody. I was pushing you.
Well, you know what? I was going to ask you, how would you describe the old Jordi Ricart? And when by the time we get to the end of the podcast, you're going to see it. This is a very cool story. Trust me. How would you describe the old Jordi Ricart?
No, what you said before, no? Like we went from losing $100,000 a year in Lullaby to making $80,000 in just 1 year. And it was beautiful. If you look at the numbers, just by numbers, it's insane. But the reality is how did we do that? I started just pushing all the employees like crazy. In a year, I went through I think 11 or 12 employees. And I thought I was proud of just of that. I was pushing our vendors, making sure that nobody was making money. Our clients trying to sell, to rent the cars for the most money possible. It was just it was that. And that's, for me, that was business. That's what I learned back in Spain with my previous boss. That's what I thought that it was business. The beautiful thing about Alan, that day when he asked us, I just want you guys to pay it forward. It's what we did in Lullaby, it was so different from what we started doing in Curated. In Curated, it was not about making money. Now it was about paying it forward. It was about helping people, helping our employees, helping our clients, helping our vendors, helping the community. It was all about just paying it forward. And that's the heart of the company. So, and that's something that Alan always says, no? When you focus on helping people unconditionally from your heart, without expecting anything in exchange, that's the most important thing. Everything comes back 10 times. So just focus on helping people and forget about the money. Money's going to come. And it's been insane. If you look at our first years, and then when we changed our mentality and we did that, you and me together, when we did our first business plans, we never thought that we would have the company that we have today.
No,
never.
No, I think if you look at the early business plans of Curated, it's still shocking to us. Those first early years, we were very conservative, or we weren't dreaming that big. No. I mean, we were dreaming big in the sense of wanting to buy a Miura or, an F40, but to dream and think of where we are today, I don't even think we thought we would get here.
No.
Right?
No, and all of this, you say it a lot of times, so you love cars. And that's your DNA. You have it in your blood.
Yes.
It's 11 p.m., 12 p.m., and you're just searching for cars while your wife is sleeping next to you. For me, I love growth. I love business. I love business growth.
Yes.
I love people growth. For me, it's growth. People and business. And the beautiful thing about you and me is that you have the love for cars, and I have the love for business and people.
Yes.
So what Curated is at the end of the day, and you said it beautifully one day that we were talking, it's all about love.
Yeah.
Right? And that's your passion and my passion together.
And I think that's been the secret of the success. I mean, some of our biggest fights, ironically, have been about, I always felt when we started this business, I had never done this prior because I didn't feel like I was ready in my life. I didn't feel like I had the money behind me to do this. And for me, it was so important to take care of our clients.
Yes,
I didn't care what it took. I didn't care the cost. In the early days, a client would get a car and the tires would have an issue. Buy him new tires. Client has cars late, pay for the shipping. Guy has an issue with a transmission, pay for the transmission. And I used to drive you nuts.
I used to go crazy. I used to text you with my phone. I remember feeling my blood, that my head was about to explode. I'm sorry. No, because at the end of the day, our margins were not that big.
No.
And so imagine if you have a $5,000 or $10,000 margin, and then now you're paying the shipping, $2,000. Now you're putting tires, $4,000. Boom, margin is gone. I was like, John, we're losing money on this deal. Don't worry, trust me, bro. And at that time, I have to accept that I didn't get it. But over time, you were 100% right. And that's why we have the clients that we have, no? And then the other thing, like on the other side, there were clients, okay, that were taking advantage of you and the company, no? Like they knew that you were a good person, that you don't know how to say no, and they were just like pushing us, especially on the service side of the business.
Yeah.
And until the day that Alan told us, like, guys, don't you know the no asshole rule?
Yeah.
and basically he told us, like, stop working with clients that are assholes, that are taking advantage of you.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, at the time, more than 50% of our clients were assholes.
Yeah.
And we were two young kids, 29 years old, 28 to 29 years old, trying to be good people. And these guys were taking advantage of us. And then Alan told us, and we started like just cutting clients, cutting heads.
But I also think like that pure love of the car for me, making sure the car was presented the right way, delivered the right way, the love of the journey for the client, your love of the growth, those things came together, and it's almost like lightning in a bottle. So as you have this magic, and then along the road, all of the experiences that we learned and things we learned from Alan, the no asshole, all this stuff had to come together. Yeah. Most importantly, though, I would say in that journey, I mean, we had a couple major shifts. One of them was we got our first basically financial institution to give us a real loan. I mean, we were working with investors' money in splits.
Yes, on 50-50 splits at the time. So yes,
you know, you cannot run a large organization like that.
So John would find a car. I was like, hey, I need $500,000. So I used to start calling people. Hey, so somebody was sending me 50, the other one 100, the other one 150. And then once we had the money, we were buying the cars. But it was difficult.
It was very difficult.
We were losing deals all the time.
Yes. So that was a major shift for us of growth. Obviously, me, Jordy and Alan, we became partners in the early days. It was Anna, it was Herschel, it was Marquis. It was Marquis in the early days. It was basically five of us, and to watch how the company's evolved and watch Herschel today and Anna today, is just it's so miraculous. Like this journey. I would say the next sort of exciting moment, and I'm going to ask you a question here. What do you think was the next pivotal moment where you felt like, okay, I am a success, or I am successful, and how did that moment change your life? I have my own answer to that, but I would love, like, when did you realize, okay, Curated is successful, I've done this, or I've made it?
Probably is going to be the same answer, yours and mine. For me, I remember speaking with you all, like a lot of times we had this conversation, like we were making like no money, no? Like, so I think one day I told you, like the day that we can have a salary, like a decent salary, we wouldn't have to worry about paying the employees. I'm just going to be happy. That's all I wanted. I didn't want to be...
You know what's so funny? You say that. I forgot that we used to have those conversations, right? And you just made me remember
just like the day that we can make $100,000, I think it was $120,000, be able to pay the payroll every month, the rent of the showroom, insurances, like that's it. Even if the company makes $10,000 on profits, we're going to be happy. That's what we used to say. But for me, that magical point, I always dreamed of having money in my pockets, no? Like I told you before that for me making it was like, okay, I have money in my bank account. So we had an opportunity to meet this gentleman, Jim Getz, former CEO of Sequoia Capital, big tech guy. I think
one of the most important tech investors, I think, in the history of tech. I mean, this guy did the WhatsApp deal. He did so many the YouTube deal, mega deals.
He was number one in the Forbes Midas list for like 7 years, I think, as the number one tech investor in the world. Yeah. So we had the opportunity to meet Jim. And when he met with us, it was so cool, no? Because he saw you all ripped jeans, ripped shirt, and then he saw me with the jacket. Like, do you guys respect each other? I don't get it. And we told him like that was our strength, no? So immediately that day he said, I want to invest in your company. We were not looking for investors. That was going to be the first year that the company was going to make money. Yes. So we told him like, we're not looking for investors, but he's like, look me up. So when we looked at him, it's like, wow, that could be an opportunity. He ended up picking up Alan in New York. They flew down to Miami. We had dinner, and we ended up closing the deal. So I remember you and me Okay, the day that we closed the deal, waiting for the money, checking the bank account like 100 times. Every 5 minutes, we were refresh, and the money was not getting in there. With our tequila there, with 2 shots. And the moment that the money hit our account, we're like, wow. So we had, cheers, we had a shot of tequila, and I didn't feel anything. I was like, now I have money in my bank account, and now what? I was expecting, I don't know, like fireworks, something inside of me. I didn't feel shit. So, but I remember next day, we sat down with all the employees. We decided that the percentage of the sale was going to go to the employees because they had been with us since day one. So we sat with them and we called them based on the time that they had been working with us, not based on the level within the company. So we called Marquis, that it was the guy that was washing the cars from the car rental. Imagine and then we gave him like a check that I think was bigger than his annual paycheck.
It was huge. Yeah,
it was huge. And his face, he was almost crying. Then we called Anna, we called, I think it was Gio. We started calling everybody and giving them checks. They were crying, they were shocked, they didn't know what to say. You and me were holding our tears, and once they left the room, we both started crying.
Yeah.
And then that moment is like, wow, now is when I made it. I realized that it was not about making money, it was about giving the money, about helping people, creating opportunities. And all those lessons that we had been learning from Alan for 4 or 5 years at the time, everything made sense.
Yes.
Like a lot of things were making sense, but at that time when we were giving those checks and sharing our profits with them, it was like, oh my God, now I get it, what Alan is talking about. Like when you give and when you help.
Yes. Yeah. It was the greatest feeling in the world. I mean, obviously, around the same time as I did buy my dream car, Diablo SE30. And again, that was exciting for me, almost as like a trophy. I mean, entrepreneurs there's no Oscars for entrepreneurs in the global sense. So sometimes you buy things as, I look at cars or whatever you might be interested as a trophy of like, okay, you did something, you accomplished something, or you're passionate about a car. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think for me, that was a pivotal moment to say, wow, we can change someone's life. We can do this. It was just surreal. It was insane. And we both felt the same way. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
So then I think the next thing is when did you start to be inspired, or this journey to write the book? When did you start to be inspired and realize like all of the things that you've learned, putting them pen to paper, and when did you start to see yourself change and yourself grow?
So we had so many conversations with Alan, at night. At some point, like you started like not jumping in the conversations at night, but I kept going and going and going. I was like so interested. For me, like business, when people, it's like, I just love it so much. So I was so passionate to I wanted to understand Alan and like how this guy that was a ballet parker, like son of 2 Holocaust survivors, came to the United States with nothing. He becomes a ballet parker, doesn't even finish his studies, and builds the largest parking company in the United States. So I had these deep conversations with him. We had the other project with the guys from the UK. So I went to UK several times with him. So I started traveling a lot with him. And I was just taking notes of everything that he was telling me. And I was taking notes because those things were it should be common sense. But it's common sense, we would say, in our personal life, but not in the business life. But I was just taking notes because I wanted to try to put that in practice and see what could happen. He was successful, so maybe by doing those things, we could be successful, even though I didn't believe that could be done in the business world. So in that same time, I joined a breathwork retreat. And I had a crazy experience. You've always believed in God, and you've been a spiritual person.
Yes.
I was zero spiritual.
You were a complete atheist. You didn't believe in anything unless it was physically in front of you.
Exactly. And I was even making fun of you. So
Always making fun of me.
So I go to this, somebody invites me to this retreat. It was December, before the end of the year. It was a breathwork retreat. And I just have we started doing this holotropic breath work. I'm breathing, laying down, breathing for 45 minutes, like that. And I have this crazy experience. Okay, and we're gonna go in detail on this on another day, not today. But I just had this crazy experience, and I had this connection, and that experience made me want to know more. So I started just reading books, and I started studying, and I started studying meditation and breath work. I became even an instructor, and I started I was obsessed about the brain and about the brain waves and the thoughts. People have 60 to 80,000 thoughts every day, and you're only aware of 5% of those thoughts. 95% of them are in your subconscious mind, so you're not aware of them, and basically your subconscious mind is deciding what's going to happen in your future. So how can we rewire our brains? So I started hypnosis, and I went deep. So the things through this personal journey, okay, that it lasted 4 years. At some point, I ended up what Alan was telling me, okay, or was telling us. It was just beautiful, and it resonated with me. I felt it inside, no? But it was words. At some point, I was able to open my heart through all this awakening process that I had personally. And once I opened my heart, those thoughts that Alan, those lessons that Alan was giving us that were coming to my mind, now they were coming to my heart. And at that point, I'm like, oh my God, I need to go deep into the company and bring this to the company. So all those learnings that we had from Alan, that we were already applying them in the business, but
you know what's so cool, and I don't want to stop you. When we first started, you first started to apply this to the business. This is what I'm going to say. All of those things we had been learning from Alan, they were sort of subconscious. They were things that we were doing in the business without realizing it, or inspiring in the business without realizing it. You laugh about my spirituality, but there were things I was doing, whether it was praying or meditating my own way, where I would wake up in the morning and there was not a negative thought in my mind. I was going to accomplish something no matter what, because I knew it was possible. I don't know how it was possible, but it was possible.
Yeah.
And what's funny is when we started to get the team together and bring people together and talk about all these things, we're like, oh my God, we're doing all these things on a small scale already.
Yeah, but what I have to say is that on the other side, I was the opposite. You were the eternal optimist.
Yes.
That I was in what world are you living? And on the other side, I was not even down to earth, below. I was always looking at the potential threats, and
of course.
and I was always had fear, and I was scared of losing the money we made, and so going through this 4-year process, it was so important for me to be able then to bring it to the company as well, and to be with you in the same, not in the same level. You will always be here. in terms of optimism.
I live in the clouds.
But but to be able to to change, to shift the frequency in the company and go from fear, and go more to love.
And that I think that has been the success of Curated. We've talked about it so many times. It's love.
It's love.
That's it.
It's love.
And I think what's so cool is I think we've now attracted the right young people and people in general that when you start putting these things out there and you start doing all of these concepts, you're attracting the right people to you. You're attracting the right things, and we have the most incredible team. I would say it's so cool to see our young guys meditating, doing these things, being positive, all of these different things, and becoming very, very successful. To me, that's probably the most gratifying thing today, is to witness the changes within the company, and just the energy of the company completely shift.
It's amazing. So, because the thing is the following: when we had those clients years ago that were taking advantage of us, we were not firing them because we were afraid. We had fear.
Yeah.
A lot of deals that you were doing doing them because you were afraid.
The worst deals that I've ever done
Right?
were based on fear, not my gut. My gut told me something
Exactly.
else, which is your heart, your love. Yeah.
Every time that we were acting from fear,
Yes.
so as soon as we left that emotion and we
Yes.
started changing the emotions and going up and up and up and up, everything started shifting. Our clients changed. The type of clients changed.
Totally.
And those clients brought other clients that were amazing. So now our clients are our friends. They're not clients, they're friends.
Yeah.
Right? They're friends. Our employees, same thing. They're not employees. We're a family. We're friends. We're all friends.
Yes.
We're here for them and they're here for us.
100%.
So everything, even the community, the car community we have around us, we changed and now everything is around love. And that's the beautiful part.
And I would say you even, this is a very, just the way the company has grown as well. And not to talk about financials or anything, but the proof is in where we are. I mean, the cars we're dealing in, the caliber of cars, the deals we're able to put together, it's magic. It's insane. I will tell you, I never thought we'd be here in this moment doing the things we're doing. It's completely surreal. Let me just go back to a few questions here. So you have completely shifted as a person. I don't consider you the same person. You're still an amazing guy. No, I'm kidding. But I think the coolest part is you've really inspired me. I mean, really, I'd never thought, if you guys know me, I'm a Christian, I'm a spiritual guy, but I never thought I'd be meditating. I never thought I'd be doing breath work. Now I meditate every morning. And then the trickle effect through the company when you were actually out of town, and we'll talk about this, and this is my next question for you, but part of what you've started is these Monday meetings, and I want you to talk about that. And I'm sitting there and you're out of town, and we go around the room and we ask everybody, positive things in their personal life and in their professional life, wins. And it was so wild because half the employees were talking about, this is so amazing what's happening in my life, what we're doing in the company. So it's been super shocking to me to see all of this rolled out into the company. What are some of the things that you've implemented into the company over the last year? And what do you think has been the biggest impact of those things?
So for me, as I told you, I started meditating, I started doing breath work, I started have two coaches, one spiritual coach and a mindset coach. And my life shifted, inside. I feel so good. I feel so happy. Never felt so happy in my life. So I was like, hey, if I did it, everybody can do it. And I wanted to share it. The thing is, I never had the balls, okay? I always thought we should do it in the company, but I'm like, John is gonna think that I'm crazy. I used to talk to you about these things, but you were like, yeah, you were listening, but not listening, no? And then 3 years ago, I go to this Conscious Capitalism CEO Summit, and I'm in a room with 300 conscious capitalists, and we're talking companies that are making maybe a revenue of $500,000, or companies that they do billions of dollars, like IKEA, Whole Foods, these big banks, and I came back so inspired by what they were doing. It's if they are doing it, I can do it as well. So then is when I went to you. I'm like, there has to be a shift here. On the other side, I don't know if you remember, but the company, in 4 years, we exploded. We multiplied this company by 400%.
Yeah.
Insane. Started growing so much. And at some point, I was I don't believe I can manage this company the way it is today. We need to do something. It needs to change.
We spoke about that many times.
Exactly.
Yeah, we spoke about that many times.
So,
I mean, and I don't want to interrupt you, but imagine we aren't CEOs, COOs that have done anything like this before. This happened by pure chance, love, all these things coming together, passion, hard work. opportunity, all these things had to come together. And then here we are, fast forward, we're like, oh my God, what did we do?
Exactly, what do we do with this?
What did we do?
We just doubled our employees, and the next year we doubled our employees again, and then we have like 28 employees. We've never done this. Company that does hundreds of millions of dollars, and then it's like, wow, how do I manage this?
Yep.
And at some point, it was like, we're not gonna be able to keep doing this unless we
Yep.
change something.
Yep.
So at that point is when I go there to Conscious Capitalism, I get super inspired by what they are doing, or like the book, Conscious Capitalism book. I start studying that, and I'm like, I want to bring this to the company. So I bring one of the Timothy
Yes.
Henry. He's actually the CEO of Conscious Capitalism right now. So we bring him to Miami. I'm like, hey, let's do a workshop, and we do that workshop now. And that was like just beautiful to see, because we had never put in a piece of paper what was the purpose of the company, what were the values. And now it's like, okay, because at the end of the day, we knew that our focus was not making money, it was helping people, right?
Yes.
But what's the higher purpose? We believe that a company is a tool to elevate humanity, not to make money.
Well, here's what I'll say from the capitalist point of view. Making money is the result of doing good business.
Exactly.
I mean, that's it. Like,
Exactly.
Money will come. If you do something right enough and you become an expert at it and you're in a niche and you're, focused on the right things, money is going to come. There's zero question. It's you could say it's a law of physics, okay? That, so I agree with that completely. And,
But the thing is, like, it's not that it's gonna come. It's like it's gonna come like 10 times more.
Yes.
Like, it's insane, because like what happened in I was invited at the Florida International University to give a talk, no? And I was sharing our story, and I put a graph with the growth, our revenue, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "But guys, I want to share something with you. This is not like curated," and it's like, wow, they were lucky. And I showed them like a study that we can share, like a study of like conscious companies, okay, with a higher purpose over a period of 20 years compared to the market.
Yes.
And then compared to leading companies in those industries.
It was insane.
It's like crazy. Like if you
insane.
invested like it was like $150,000 like 20 years ago on those companies, you would have 450 in the market.
Yeah, it was crazy.
If it was like with higher purpose companies, $1.9 million, and with leading companies from the industry, 600 and something. That's what the study says.
Yes.
So like having a higher purpose, it's important.
Yes.
In the short term, it's difficult. Why? Because you are not taking advantage of your clients. You're giving them a deal. You're making sure that they're getting a deal. 2, you're making sure that you paid as much as you can to your employees. You're making sure that your vendors make money. It has to be a win-win. You cannot just push them.
Yes.
Like, are you making money? And hey, I need to make sure. So everybody needs to make money. It's a win-win. And that's what we did with Conscious Capitalism. We were already doing this, but we defined that. We defined what's our higher purpose. What are our values? And it was beautiful to see that we all had the same values in our minds.
Yeah.
So we define our values, and then what's our value creation proposal? Like, how do we make sure that it's a win-win for our clients, for our vendors, for our employees, for everybody? And we put that in writing. How do we create value for everybody?
Yes.
So just doing that, I believe that started like changing the company a lot.
I agree, and I do want to say one thing, and because I saw somebody comment once on a video, and I normally don't comment back because I just let it bounce off my thick skin. But this is not some woke bullshit either. Like seriously, like I think even when, as an entrepreneur, if you're selling anything, if you're dealing with someone that's capable or discerning, or someone at, a certain level, it could be an organization, whatever. Listen, you want everybody to win. That is the best deal. And at the end of the day, there's many times we're negotiating a car and I tell someone, hey, I need to make money too. This is my margin. This is what it's going to take. This is as transparent as you can get. And guess what? Boom. The person makes the deal because they feel like they're not getting taken advantage of. You're authentic. You're transparent. And that has been our secret sauce during the journey is at the time, we didn't relate it to being a conscious company. But it was just being transparent and authentic with clients and people and buyers and sellers.
And vulnerable. I think that this word is super important within our culture.
And yes, I agree. Okay, so...
And then the other thing that I wanted to share, so on one side it was this, the higher purpose, values and value creation. On the other side, I wanted to bring everything that I did in the last 4 years in the business world. So we created this thing, or I created this thing called the Awaken Team. And I wanted to help our employees find purpose and make sure that they can live that purpose within our organization. So we started like doing like every Monday, we start together and we do group coaching for like 30 minutes. And then we do retreats every quarter where we do meditation, we do breath work, we do hypnosis, we do exercises. And then the other thing is like we have, like last year we had like 5-6 people doing like coaching with a professional coach.
Yes.
This year there's gonna be another 4 or 5 people. And we wanna make sure that we help the employees. And this is not something related to the company. That's something that we do it for them to be happy.
And I think, listen, we all have traumas. We all have our own things. We all come to the table with some sort of a baggage. Yeah. And to be able to help our team, to me, that's, I mean, it's
just beautiful. Like the other day, one of our employees like sent me a message and he said like that his wife, his mom, like his family members felt a massive change in him since he started working in this company. And for me, that means the world.
Yeah,
the world.
It's huge. Well, I would say in my own life, I've never felt, going through this, I've never felt so relaxed and so calm and just like, everything's gonna work out the way it is. So it's been insane. It's been very, very incredible. Okay, so now getting into the book, I've got a few questions for you. This is actually sort of fun too because remember, I've always technically been the face of Curated. So now to have you, dude, I'm so proud of you. You're public speaking, you're doing all these things. Jordy's really getting out of his shell, which is super cool. What is your goal of this book? Like to say, and if you haven't bought the book yet, it's available now. Sergio will put links all over on the screen, whatever. It's a must read for an entrepreneur, someone that's growing their business. It's a must read for anybody, honestly. It's obviously more business focused. But what was your goal with the book from day one?
I believe that everybody's a good person. Again, that's something that Alan used to tell me all the time. And so one day, I was telling him like, oh no, they're bad people. And he told me like, that's the difference between you and me. I believe that everybody's a good person. And I got upset with Alan what you did.
I actually remember that. Yeah, I know what the situation was.
Hurt me.
You're like, they're bad people.
Exactly. And it hurt me, you know, when he said that.
Yeah.
And you know what, like 10 years later, I have to tell you that Alan was right. And I believe that everybody's a good person. They just had bad experiences, you know, that brought them to where they are today. So I was a good person. I didn't know how to do business in another way. I was brought up in a way. My dad, used to do business in a way. My boss, I had like 2 bosses that were super tough. I had one that was amazing, but the other 2 were like super tough. And I thought that business was business. That's business. That's my personal life. So I wanted to show people that there's another way to do business, that there's a way where you lead with your heart, where you help people unconditionally, where you just like inspire people and support them. And when you do that, you don't only make money, but you make a lot of money.
Yep.
Okay, and this is proven right now. This beautiful work that these guys at Conscious Capitalism are doing. They're following these companies and. It's that, because people is like, oh, if I do this, I'm not going to make money. If I do this, the company's going to suffer. No, maybe it's going to be tough a little bit at the beginning because you have to make an investment. But in the long term, and this is the important thing, you have to have a mid-long-term vision. In the long term, you're going to do amazing. You're going to be happy.
Yes.
Employees are going to be happy. You're going to feel good. So that's what life is about. It's about being happy.
And I always say it's a marathon. It's not a race.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to put all these notes from Alan together. At the beginning, I put it together just for us as employees and for Alan. And then, things happened and they asked me to put together a book. So I ended up doing it.
I love it. Okay, next question. What do you think, and someone that's watching right now, they could be struggling, maybe they're not struggling. What do you think is the best advice that you could give to a young entrepreneur today? That I'm talking short-term advice at this moment, with the exception of buying your book, with the exception of going out and buying the book right now. What do you think is the best short-term advice for someone right now today?
Yeah, the book is more like focused on business, no? But for some, not even an entrepreneur, for everybody that is.
For everybody, yeah.
And that's what I did. Okay, like from the journey that I did, like be present, feel your emotions. We're not even aware of our emotions, and that's the most important thing. We put them away. It's like just we heal by feeling. Okay, so let's feel the emotions. Once we feel an emotion lasts 90 seconds. Once we feel an emotion, we can process it. If we don't do that, it gets with us, and then we get into a mood, and we're it's impossible to be happy that way. The way to do that is by being present. How are you present? How can you be present? By meditating. So for me, what I would say is just learn to meditate. There's so many videos on YouTube,
I love it.
Everywhere. So just like meditate, be present. Don't worry about the past. Okay? The past is the past. Not gonna come back. You're not gonna change it. So forget about the past. Don't worry about the future. The only time that exists is the now. So just be present, meditate, be present, and believe that everything is going to be fine. If you're just worrying, you're acting out of fear, you're going to take bad decisions.
Oh, totally.
And everything is going to be wrong.
Totally.
If you're present, you're not afraid, you act from love and leading with your heart, everything is going to be fantastic. Yeah. The outcome, it cannot be bad. It's going to be insane. And we've seen it, you and me. That's why now I'm talking about this, because I've seen it.
Well, I think the world as a whole does not always do a good enough job of expressing it. One of the most pivotal things that I remember hearing, but then not realizing till later the importance was, so there's a great conversation. Obviously, I'm a massive Michael Jordan fan. Michael Jordan's probably the greatest basketball player of all time. And one of the coaches, I forget if it was the coach or someone involved with the team, said it wasn't Michael Jordan's talent or his hard work that made him show up and win championships. It was his incredible, basically, ability to be present in the moment, not think about missing the last shot, not thinking about the championship, but being present in that one moment. And actually, they said it was like turning on a light switch, and he was able to do that. One of the ways he was actually able to do that, I was told, was like through music and different things like that. But it's funny, I remember hearing that at the time, but then until I was meditating and things like that, I was like, oh, now I get it, the importance of being present. So I don't think we talk about it enough, but I think even when you think of guys like, Senna and all these sports legends, their talent was being present in that moment.
Exactly. If not, you're going to be acting out of fear.
Yes.
Because you're going to be worrying about the future.
Yes.
And the other thing, related to that, is ask for help. Like when somebody asks you for help, how do you feel? How do you feel once you help somebody?
Oh, you feel amazing.
So why is it so difficult to ask for help? Like it is a gift. We're giving a gift to somebody.
Yes.
That is going to feel so great because he's been able to help you.
And I also think people are afraid sometimes to ask for help, but they it's wild because I think any time that I've sincerely gone to someone and said, man, I need your help with this. I mean, maybe there's a few times where someone said no, but most of the time it's shocking what doors can open. And it's that being that vulnerable, again, going back to that, being vulnerable, taking away your ego, and saying, there's been a million times I've gone to clients or gone to people and I've said, man, I screwed up. I made a mistake. Can you help me with this? Blah, blah, blah. And people are, I think in general, most people, especially at a certain level of success, understand that.
And even there's people that, they have this shield.
Yes.
But once you're vulnerable,
you
open up,
100%.
Hey, that shield disappears.
Gone.
And the level of connection that you have, it's insane.
It's insane.
They just want to help you.
100%.
You want to help them. And that's what happens with our clients. Since we're so vulnerable, so sincere and authentic, there's no shield. There's nothing. We are who we are.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I would say. That's the most important thing.
Love it. I'm going to end with a few more questions. What's your... This is going to be a tough one. I'm going to stump him with this because he's not the car guy. We've made him a little bit of a car guy. What for you, of everything we've ever bought and sold, what for you has excited you the most or was just wow, that's so cool?
I'll tell you something. My 996 Turbo. When I was studying, I'm not a big car guy, but I like cars. When I was studying at the university, I had a picture of, it was a 2004, 5, no, yes, from 2000 and 2005, I was studying at university. I had a picture of a 996 Turbo. And then when we made some money, I asked you to help me find a car. And I was betting on all these cars on Bring a Trailer. I never had the to buy them. And then you called me. It's like, I have the car for you. It was yellow. I was not looking for yellow.
We bought it.
But that car means a lot to me.
Yes.
It's not a car. It's like what happened with you with the SC30.
Of course.
Same thing. It's not a car. It has a meaning.
Yes.
So for me, that's.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Well, this has been the most insane dream, the most insane journey. I'm not going to get emotional now. It's been cheers to, it's 10 years this year. Cheers to the next 10 years, 20 years. And listen, let's just keep having fun, spreading the love, and doing great stuff. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for supporting our entire journey. We definitely need to do this again. I think we've got to get Jordi to do another podcast and maybe go down a car rabbit hole. I have some fun ideas in mind, but it's been a pleasure. Congrats, bro. I love you to death. And
I love you, man.
Cool. Happy New Year.
Thank you.